Not a Mac. No. Okay.
No.
It's like I'm right clicking. It's not working. If you use a second monitor at work or something, you'll want to switch that back. I can do that for you after you're done here. If that's going to be I don't know if this is your work laptop. I don't want to mess you up on Monday. So when you unplug, I'm right down the hall. If you want to just come see me, I'll fix it for you.
I'm Megan.
I'm Megan. I'm Peter. Yeah, I'm the AV guy. I'm just subbing in from Chelmsford.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So, yeah, I won't have my hands too full. Do you know which room it is? It's just past the desk. It's the third door on the left. You walk down and look on the left side.
Are we ready to get started?
Oh, we're supposed to use a mic. Okay. Go ahead and go fill the front up. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today to learn about and discuss how we can make our homes, our neighborhoods, and our community more resilient as we prepare together for severe weather events. We were fortunate that the nor'easter that happened last week did not impact us nearly as much as it did the southern Massachusetts and Rhode Island coastal area. But what if it had? How prepared would you have been? Do you know which of our neighbors might have needed help? Would our town have been prepared? And this is what we're going to talk about today. Please be sure to help yourself. We have plenty of food and refreshments up there, and it's a casual event, so get up anytime and nobody will judge you for that. So we want it all gone by 12 o'clock, that's all got to be gone. And everybody knows where the restrooms are here, right down the hall to your left. My name is Diana Cohane. I'm the chairperson of the Tyngsborough Sustainability Committee. I want to introduce the other members who are here with us today. I see Kristen Keegan, who's vice chair over there, and Amy Pizerski, Debbie Schneider, and Tony Boucher is here, and Carolyn Scafidi, our fruit goddess. So this is the second of our three-part series that we're calling Roots of Resilience. Our final offering will be March 21st, where we will focus on how important each of our yards can be to the weakening or strengthening of our regional resilience. Our first speaker this morning is Megan Tenhoff. Megan is the principal planner of sustainability for the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, which they call NIMCOG. It's a regional planning agency serving the towns and cities here in the northern Middlesex County. The topics we are covering in this Roots of Resilience series are near and dear to Megan's heart, so she has volunteered to help us on her own time with developing this series and also presenting the big picture and facilitating each of our sessions. Megan earned her master's in environmental policy and planning from Tufts University and is a professional planner focusing on community-centered adaptation and resilience. Originally from the Pacific Northwest, Megan spent 7 years working in food access and climate action before moving to Massachusetts. So please welcome Megan, and Megan will kick it off from here.
Thank you, Diana, for the really warm welcome, and thank you for the town of Tyngsborough for hosting us today and the Council on Aging. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time giving us some framing as we talk about what community resilience is. As we'll hear from the fire chief and our, higher up, thank you so much. You need to come with me to karaoke, so I remembered I came the mic up. We'll hear about all of the ways that our emergency and our institutional actors are helping to support emergency management and disaster preparedness, but it really comes down to us as the community and your neighbors. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about why we're here today and the care for your neighbors. So right here is really where disaster resilience lives, which is social capital. And that is knowing your neighbors and knowing that your neighbors can come to you to ask you for questions, and also knowing about the resources that exist around you. So some of the themes that we're going to be covering today and talking about is a preparedness and a plan. So what do you even need to know to be prepared? Information on training programs, and then how do you support your vulnerable neighbors? And how can you make sure that when it's time to respond to an emergency, you know what to do? And then, of course, the all-important recovery part, right, is looking at your previous plans, assessing how it went, understanding where the gaps were, and always thinking about continuous improvements. So I'm sorry those pictures came out a little bit blurry, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between social infrastructure, which is social capital, and hard infrastructure. So recently, there's a scholar out of Northeastern University. His name is Daniel Aldrich, and he's done some really fantastic work on understanding disaster resilience from a qualitative perspective. And throughout his research over the past 20 years, what he's found is that he looked at 2 communities in Japan. One that spent tens of billions of dollars putting in a seawall, hard infrastructure. And the other one that spent no money getting to know their neighbors and who needed help and who survived the last tsunami. Well, alarms went off in both places that the tsunami was coming. And people were not sure what that sound was with this hard infrastructure. So what did they do? They ran up to the wall and they looked over. What did these folks do? They knew that this neighbor needed to be carried out. And which way to go? Guess who survived? That one. And after the disaster, guess who returned to these communities and were actually had an economic growth rather than a decline? So, with that, I want to pass it over to Wes Russell, who is the fire chief. And what is your emergency response role? We wear many hats in our communities,
So
right?
today I'm wearing my emergency management director hat.
Okay, emergency management director, here you go.
And I speak much louder. I'm not sure if I need this or not. Can you guys hear? Oh, you're recording? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick switch here.
While he's doing that, so my name is Wes Russell. I've been the fire chief since 2016, but I've been the emergency management director since 2002, when the whole country took a whole new look at disaster preparedness after 2001, and civil defense became emergency management, and a lot of changes started happening. I actually got involved in emergency management a little bit before that. I was working as a paramedic, and I was actually the director of the paramedic service that covers the hospital-based paramedic service that covers Greater Lowell, all the communities. And as a director in the hospital, they thought I would be a good person to head up the Y2K preparedness. Do you remember that? And that's how I actually got involved with this and evolved into Tyngsborough Emergency Management. How am I going to control? You're going to control this for me? So as the emergency management director, I also, firefighter Andrew Taylor is currently our deputy EMD, and it's actually in Tyngsborough is a separate role, even though I am the fire chief and the EMD, like in many communities. And we'll have to see how the community plans on looking at that moving forward, but it's not uncommon for the fire chief to also be the EMD. And people get a misunderstanding about what does emergency management do, and a lot of people have the interpretation that, okay, when a disaster strikes, emergency management comes in and takes over and is in charge, and that's not the case at all. Emergency management is always in a supportive role, planning, preparing, and when disaster strikes, we'll talk about the people that are actually responding and to consequences that occur. And emergency management is there to support them by knowing where to obtain resources, doing resource management and allocation, communicating with our neighbors at whether it's other communities at the local level or the emergency management at the state and federal level. And that's really what we do. So appointed by the town manager and select board, and there's it's monitoring conditions. Situational awareness is a big thing. During the recent storm, that's really what we did the whole time, was kind of maintain awareness as to what the predictions were, what was happening in town during the storm. And we're looking for things like, obviously, power outages, blocked roads, need for, power crews to address critical infrastructure and that kind of thing. Again, a big part of that is coordinating with state and local partners. The emergency management team here over on the right includes obviously town administration, but also the people you expect, right? Fire, police, DPW, public health, and sometimes others. But that's really the people who go to work and respond to emergencies. And they know their job. Emergency management doesn't take over and say, fire do this, police do this. They do what they do. And emergency management helps with tracking information, coordinating the effort, gathering information to help make decisions about where to apply limited resources, that kind of thing. So that's how it all comes together. I want to stay on this one just a bit. In emergency management, we always take an all hazards approach, and we'll talk about some of the different types of hazards, and today we're obviously focusing on natural hazards that are apparently increasing due to climate change. But the all hazards approach pays dividends, because what we know is, our dirty little emergency management secret is we don't change necessarily how we operate if it's a natural hazard versus a man-made or technological hazard. We use the same kind of planning effort, meeting with the same groups of people that you just saw up there communicating face to face. We use our same communication systems. We use our same resource management systems. We coordinate with other communities, whether it's a widespread natural disaster or it's some kind of a more focused technological or man-made hazard, which fortunately are less common for us. The other big thing is the valuable part, and I love the example that you gave there because I knew the answer, and I had never seen that before. But the real answer to successful emergency management is doing what we're doing here today. And excuse me, the CERT team plays a big role in that as well, is communicating with people, police, fire, EMS, public safety, public health, getting together and talking about emergencies and planning them is really where the success comes from. It's not really about spending a lot of money on big technological things. I've gone to, I can't tell you how many meetings I've gone to where people talk about, we got to buy more radios, because we need more frequencies. And all that means is we start to rebuild communication silos where everybody has these great radios to talk to each other in their little groups, but we're not getting together and talking to each other. So I think that was a great example. All right, let's move forward. I won't spend a lot of time on, but again, all hazards, this is kind of what, how it kind of breaks down. The other thing I'll say is I'm very fortunate to live in New England. I feel that way as an emergency manager because I don't have near the challenges that emergency managers in California and Florida have. And I get to learn from their successes and mistakes. And that's where a lot of, and the CERT team, I think, found this out early on in their training. A lot of their training and a lot of our training comes from those places where they do a lot of natural disasters, and they are great at it in many cases. Florida has, very respectable emergency management systems. There's a lot for us to learn there. Our challenge is to take that valuable information and say, okay, how do we apply that to Tyngsborough? How do we make that work here? Do we have to spend a lot of time planning for earthquakes and collapsed buildings throughout the town? Probably not. But we can take that good information they have and apply it to some of our lessons here. And just these are, again, some of the things that we talk about when we talk about climate resiliency. Winter storms, flooding, and heat waves and drought seem to be becoming more common, right? And lasting longer. And one of the messages that we get out of places like Florida and California is now you have to start planning for overlapping disasters, right? These things may be happening at the same time. So just as an example. How we apply that information to Tyngsborough is based on, and this is one term, I use hazard vulnerability analysis. I think that probably went out in the early 2000s or 90s. But there's a lot of risk analysis is a big term now, community risk analysis. But they all mean the same thing. Looking at what the hazards are and saying, okay, how are they going to impact us and how can we prepare for them? So we look at some of those hazards that we saw in the other thing and we say, okay, earthquakes. How are they, we look at the risk of having it, right? What's the threat? Part of that is looking at the history of earthquakes. Believe it or not, we've probably had more earthquakes affect Tyngsborough than we have hurricanes and tornadoes. But the impact on Tyngsborough, when we do have earthquakes, is fairly small. We don't have a fault nearby. We don't have unstable, what's the term there? Topographical shelves that are shifting, plates, earth plates. So the impact is low here. And so we may not be very well prepared for widespread rescues of collapsed buildings throughout town, but it's not really a likelihood that we need to be prepared. So when we have always limited dollars and time to prepare, we focus on the things that are most likely going to affect us the worst and how we can best prepare for them. We identify those gaps, those preparedness gaps. The first thing we look at is life safety. On that last slide there, we had flooding and winter storms. So you look at those and say, okay, where's the life safety threat? That's what we're going to focus on first, trying to save lives, prevent loss of life. I can tell you worldwide, the tsunami is a great example. Flooding is the deadliest type of disaster throughout the country and worldwide. People lose lives when there's widespread flooding. Now we have to look at flooding and say, okay, what is our risk for flooding in Tyngsborough? And I think I have that as one of the future slides, so I'll come back to that later. Stay on this. I'll come back to that later. But winter storms. So let's start with that one. But we go through that analysis for each threat. What's the likelihood of it happening? What's the risk? Life safety, property damage, especially critical infrastructure property, and then continuity of operations. How do we keep moving? How do we stay resilient and the town keeps operating, businesses keep operating through these storms, or recovery from those disasters? That's really what the whole nutshell of emergency management. When we talk about winter storms and frequency, it's up there, right? That is our most likely thing that we're going to respond to that's going to affect the operations of the community is a severe winter storm. We get them almost every year. Seems like for a few years we got pretty lucky, but it looks like they're coming back, right? Hold on for a second. And then we look at it and say, okay, well, what is our preparedness level for winter storms? That's something we tend to do in our sleep. You talk to the police, fire, DPW, pick the somebody that's just been there for a couple of years and say, hey, when there's a big winter storm hits, what do you guys do? How do you respond? They probably can recite that because they've been through it and they know. And so we're well prepared for winter storms. Does that mean, again, this is the conundrum, right? So it's the most frequent thing we're going to get. How much time do we spend preparing for it? Well, on the other hand, we're already well prepared for it. This is something we've done. So maybe we spend our preparedness planning and dollars somewhere else. And the other thing is the issues that happen, widespread power outages, vulnerable populations being separated from support networks, keeping the town operating and keeping businesses operating. Through all of these, those are issues that we have to address. So again, you have a lot of these common things. The dirty little secret in emergency management is we do the same thing no matter what the disaster, right? We're still addressing the same issues. So it gets more simple. Let's go to the next one. Flooding. When we talk about flooding, I broke down there's three major types of flooding that a community may deal with. Coastal flooding, it causes huge damages in communities on the coast. Fortunately, we don't have to deal with that unless the coast changes dramatically. You know anything about that happening, do you? So we're pretty good there. It's a low likelihood. We're not going to spend a lot of time thinking about coastal flooding. Riverine flooding. Well, did I put that accent there, or is that accent? Oh, that's a typo. Oh, is that what it is? I'm like, did I do it? Riverine flooding. We have the Merrimack River. What do you think our vulnerability is there? Yeah, so we have some areas, and so historically, we go back and look at how often has the Merrimack River hit, and they have action stage, which is just before flood stage, and then severe flood, and you look at it historically. Fortunately, that information is all tracked for us by the National Weather Service and the U.S. Geological Survey people, and so I have easy access to that information. I actually I took a snapshot and meant to include it in this slide, and I forgot. But I can show you, when the river flooded and at what stage it was with all the dates, and you can pull it up on a website right now. The worst flooding that we've experienced since I've been the emergency management director was in Mother's Day 2006. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but we had a combination. We actually had severe flooding in the fall before that. In 05, we were, and this picture might be from 05. This is the Flint Pond Dam, the old one, that was severely eroding every time that we had a storm. But we had heavy rains for days, and we had snow melt from the White Mountains. So the Merrimack River watershed includes the entire western part of the White Mountains. Pemigewasset rivers come down in, flow into the Merrimack River. Winnipesaukee comes in and flows in, and all form the Merrimack River. And everything along either side of the river from there to here continues to flow into the Merrimack River. Flint Pond, Bridge Meadow Brook flow into the Merrimack River. So it's a huge watershed, long river, and that year that water just impacted us. And we had, as far as river flooding, our effects were fairly minor. We had a couple of houses on Riverbend Road that sit really down low that had flooding actually getting into their homes. We had the Bridgeview condominiums off of Middlesex Road, which again are fairly low, and they have the railroad tracks between them, but for whatever reason, something, was blocked, and those condominiums started to flood. And we had a couple of sewer pump stations, I think, that were starting to flood. So, we had things we had to take care of, but I mean, the worst flooding we've had, and we haven't had flooding like that in 20 years. Any wood we can knock on? We had no loss of life. We really didn't lose critical infrastructure. We were able to, and you don't control river flooding. You deal with the consequences. At least like you don't control tsunamis with a wall. Localized flooding we have a lot more often, and that can affect local neighborhoods and areas. And so that's something that we are kind of used to responding to. It overtops some roadways here and there. The town has done a lot of work in the last 20 years on identifying culverts that need to be enlarged or repaired to be able to withstand any future flooding that if it increases. And those are how we address, so that's how we try to mitigate the damages of flooding. And then obviously we need to respond if there's a neighborhood that's isolated for any reason. But those are our risks, and again, we've responded to localized flooding quite a bit. This dam, by the way, was, the earthen dam was overtopping, quite frequently. And the back side of the dam, the downstream side, was eroding, and the granite was falling into the lower pond. And it was really just a matter of time, and I know that the select board was working with Fish and Wildlife, who actually owned the dam. DCR Fish and Wildlife owned that dam to repair it. It seemed like it took a decade before they finally came in and started, and they've done a great job. It's a beautiful dam now, and I don't know how many people remember during the repair where they had a cofferdam in there and they had pumps in there. We actually had the brook, Bridge Meadow Brook, runs behind here, crosses Dunstable Road. There's a beautiful big beaver pond up on Jack's Road. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. The beaver dam let go. It was just a beaver dam. They had tried to put pipes in to lessen the impact, the water rise there, but the beavers, were fighting that. And that beaver dam let go one day, and we had the worst localized flooding the town has seen through this area, through Dunstable Road, Upper Westford Road, and I got a call from fortunately they were working on the dam. One of the engineers called me early in the morning and said, I don't know what's going on, but we had a big flood, and it's overtopping our coffer dam, and fortunately they had pumps in place because they were working on it. They just turned the pumps on, and was able to, we didn't have an issue. If that had happened before they started working on the dam, we probably would have been dealing with some greater consequences down the road. Let's go next. Heat wave and drought. Again, our concern with the winter storms and the heat waves is the grid. Are people going to have power? If people don't lose power, they tend to be fairly self-sufficient, right? How many people have generators in case they lose power? And most people, that's a great number. But of course, you the guys are coming to this to hear about emergency preparedness. It's funny. Before the last storm, I don't have an automatic generator. I have one I have to go down and start and hook up. And I started every couple of months just to make sure it's going. Run it for like 20 minutes. I went down the day before the storm was going to hit to start my generator, and it wouldn't start. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But fortunately, we were fortunate in this storm. We didn't lose power this time. But that's one of the big things. If we lose power, people need to stay warm, or in a heat wave, people need to stay cool, and they need information, right? They need to get the news and that kind of thing. So a big part of our job is being able to open warming centers, cooling centers, and/or shelter people overnight if need be, which we haven't had to do in quite a few years. The big snowstorm in 2013, I think, was probably the worst one that we've had since I've been doing this, where we actually had people without power for close to 2 weeks and had families staying in the gymnasium at the elementary school for a lot of that time. You know, they tended to like go home during the day and come back at night to stay warm and that kind of thing. And that was a huge challenge. There's not a lot of resources for small communities. Now, you think, oh, well, we call the Red Cross, right? Whenever we have any of these natural disasters, it obviously just doesn't affect Tyngsborough. It's widespread. It affects all the communities. Red Cross doesn't put a chapter in every little podunk town that wants one. They do a regional shelter. And so for all these storms that we were having back in the early 2000s, and we were having a lot of power loss, there would be a regional Red Cross shelter set up in Lowell for all the communities. But people in Tyngsborough don't want to go to a Red Cross shelter in Lowell. They want to go to a Tyngsborough shelter, and so we've got to somehow try to figure out how to do that. There's a local medical reserve corps which we would tap into that's kind of a regional asset based out of Westford. But the real answer to that problem is, and we, you know, as we get going in the last couple of years, is these guys, and we'll let them talk to you in just a minute. But sheltering people is a big part of that job. What else we got? Hurricanes and thunderstorms, same idea. The hurricanes, it seems like we have a lot of hurricanes come up the coast. And we actually, I don't know, you know, what's blocking them from hitting Tyngsborough. That we have been hit, there's no question. But you'd be surprised how many of them veer off one way or the other, and we are very fortunate with the hurricanes. If you look at the, and again, you pull up the National Weather Service track, and they can show you all the tracks of all the hurricanes over the last 20 or 30 years. And for some reason, we've just been fortunate that they bypassed us. So, I'm going to segue into the CERT team, I think, but obviously, part of preparing, is this my slide or your side? This one surprised me. What's in it? This is the bridge? Okay. So part of what we want to do here today, and you know, I learned this as being a call firefighter. When you're a call firefighter, you're getting called to respond to the community when something bad's happening, right? Obviously for a fire somewhere else, and that's usually, you know, not a problem for your family. But when it's a severe winter storm or a hurricane and people are losing power, I would say, honey, I gotta go. Take care of the kids, let me know if you need anything. You know, this is before cell phones. And we leave the house. So part of being a call firefighter, and then we try to train this into the call firefighters as we bring them on, is you need to be prepared at home. We can't rely on you to come and have us help with the rest of the community if you're not prepared at home. And so think about that, take the steps you need. And that's the same information we gave to the CERT team is, you know, they need to be prepared at home in order for them to leave home and come and help if there's a crisis somewhere. And obviously, you know, part of this objective now is to reach out to everybody and help everybody be more prepared at home. So with that, I'll turn it over to who's going?
Time. I'm going to apologize for the microphone use. I'm not a karaoke person at all. Good morning. I'm Diane Eastwood. I live on Mustang Road here in town, CERT team member, and we'll get into that, just what that means in just a second here. All right. So here is the slide of the bane of my existence this week. I hope it plays. Maybe not. But while he fiddles with the IT end of this, I just want to acknowledge Amy and Scott and Ajit, who are CERT team members here with me. Yeah, stand up, say hello. Also, like to thank Chief Russell for inviting us to participate today, and the Sustainability Committee for hosting us as well.
nutrition apps, inventory trackers.
Let's talk about CERT while we wait. What is it? What is it? You hear CERT, you see us wearing these shirts. You might see us at, there we go. You might see us at the neighborhood party, there the block party. You might see us at heating and cooling shelters that we set up in town. Oh, here we go. Okay.
It's hit a huge wave or a storm at sea.
We have had a very fire in Oakland. It is a major fire, a large fire nearly half a block long. Bay Bridge has been lost.
It was the scariest thing I'd ever been through. And I think the worst thing about it was not knowing what to do after.
In 1989, when Loma Prieta earthquake hit, our department went to Los Angeles to get the CERT curriculum, the Community Emergency Response Team program. Our primary goal is to make sure that the residents that live here are ready for anything.
Mart is a small town. There's only about 2,000 people that live here. So what's unique about the CERT program here at Mart is a number of things. One, it's all teenagers. All of us are in high school. It's also taught as an actual class here. It affects our GPA. The teen CERT program is crucial to Mart because we don't have EMS, we don't have those types of first responders. Waco would be called first, and it takes them at least 30 minutes to get here. So we really are the first line of defense.
So we are going to be looking at MIs. What are MIs? Heart attack.
As the town's needs change, our studies change. Our community needs not just the CERT curriculum, but we add to that with EMT curriculum. I don't think adults give teenagers in general enough credit for what they can and can't do. We kind of undermine what I think they're capable of. So if you teach them to rise to that expectation, they will, and they'll be able to handle it. Marlin is in Falls County, 20-30 minutes away. The water system completely failed last year. So the townspeople were without water for approximately 10 to 12 days.
We kind of just immediately jumped into action and knew exactly what to do.
The thing that they did the most was consult people. It was very traumatic for the whole community. So to be there to give assistance really helped us feel like we were making a difference with some people.
We've been prepared so well that whenever we're put into these situations, we don't think about, can I do this? We do it because we've had the training and we know that we can.
We teach people confidence. The confidence that should a situation arise, that you have the capabilities to react to that situation. So one of the scenarios that we have is what to do in the event of either being in a submerged vehicle or coming upon one.
On the right leg.
All right, go ahead and get her out and then take her over there on the side of the road. Good job. I did a great job.
It's okay, we'll carry you.
Can you tell us your name? My name is Dolores Bertolini. Yes. And your
CERT for me meant survival and how to survive in the wilderness, because at that time I thought this was wilderness. We were big city kids from New York City, so we never even thought about hurricanes. It's just beautiful here all the time. But when a storm comes, everything changes.
Our CERT members played a huge role in Hurricane Matthew. We were a part of opening a shelter here in our region, and our CERT members were the ones that came to the rescue once again and manned that shelter. They made sure that everybody had what they needed. We could not react as an emergency management division without them. They are that integral of a role.
Everybody can be a CERT member. Everybody brings a skill. That's the type of city we have.
So the next earthquake, we know it's going to happen within 30 years. We know we're going to get a big one. We have no idea when it's going to occur, but we have to be ready.
We've had a lot of people that felt like they needed to do something after the earthquake. Today, the CERT program is stronger than ever.
We care about our community, so we sign up and show up. This is my first citywide drill where I get to apply the skills I've learned.
We assess the building from outside to see what we notice.
You are always assessing your situation to make sure that you react quickly and proactively. I've also learned many different skills like being able to assess structural damage in a building, look for gas leaks, and do a little bit of triage.
Our job here is to train our CERT volunteers to be on their own for at least 3 or 4 days. We're so used to calling on resources that are readily available to us, and during the time of an earthquake, those resources just aren't going to come. So you really have to rely on your neighbors and the people that are around you.
I am not afraid anymore. If another earthquake happens or another disaster, I have some skills that I've learned, and so the fear and the terror is not there.
It's really empowering to know that you're what's going to be there first. You're what's going to comfort the people.
Because of the CERT training, we didn't lose hope. We actually became proponents of you can survive no matter what.
I think what I like best about the program is just feeling like I am part of San Francisco, and in case of an emergency, I feel prepared.
Okay.
You folks have no idea what audience.
I'll switch. Start.
All right. Thank God. All right, so what does CERT stand for? We are the Community Emergency Response Team. And we are about to enter our 3rd year of service, if you haven't heard of us. And we have about 20 volunteers, give or take. We meet almost monthly, and we train whenever we're asked to. Some of our training has included CPR, I'm not going to remember those, and basic first aid. Can you go back one? Fire hydrant rehab and support, mass casualty incident support, traffic management. Amy and I just finished a wide area search training, which includes wide area search in terms of disasters, but also in terms of individual search. Shelter support and operation, and online training from FEMA. And as you saw in the video, the idea of CERT came from different places. The first one was Mexico City. I remember that one back when I was much younger. Huge earthquake, killed a lot of people. Didn't have a CERT team, probably wasn't ready for it. Infrastructure in all different ways. A lot of people died, and a lot of volunteers died looking for people. And then the LA Fire Department created CERT officially in 1986. FEMA adopted and expanded this program, and now there are CERT teams in all 50 states and different territories, and foreign countries have them as well. So what are we able to do? We work alongside emergency services personnel when we are activated. So we will get a message, who can respond. Whoever can respond, we'll let them know. We assume some similar functions to those of the emergency services, not everything, but that allows them to focus on other things that might be more important, okay? We prepare our families and communities, and hopefully preparing you today, prior to emergencies, and we respond to emergencies and disasters. Next slide, please. Let's see. So what we are doing here today in terms of the public is hopefully bringing awareness about community alerts, warnings, and evacuation routes. We participate in training and exercises. We practice those skills. We practice our own personal plans. As you can see, we brought all our stuff today. We prepare the community for unexpected, kind of bridging the gap between fire and police and just everybody that might live, next to you, your neighbors. We provide feedback to the community, and we operate directly under the guidance and command of Tyngsborough Office of Emergency Management. So that is who our boss is.
So you might see us at the Tyngsborough Block Party. That's probably one of the biggest events that we support that is visible to the community, along with some health and safety fairs too. We're there. One that comes to mind was when we opened Ironwood Park on that rainy day. We were there with literature. Firefighter rehab. We support emergency response, damage assessment. We're trained in that, and also the community events.
There is an audio missing in the main ones and the switch.
So we're going to show you next a slide on our first activation as a team. There was a rather large fire on Danforth Road, if I'm permitted to say where it was, but it's deep into Tyngsborough, and if you know kind of where it is, it's through Dunstable into Tyngsborough, and this is some of the communication that we had. We had team members say, you know, there's a fire here. Can you bring water? Can you bring snacks? Can you provide firefighter rehab? And you can see who could respond. You can see that we were out there. It was, I think, what, 20 degrees that day? Icy. He was not there. He was not there, but we brought, you know, water and snacks, and somebody stopped by with coffee, and, you know, we just set up for the firefighters to provide whatever they needed to keep going that night.
So I think this is the audio for the activation.
Okay.
Get it to play. Oh, I turned the audio off earlier. My bad.
Fire alarm from command. Fire alarm command. Can you give the American Red Cross a call and see if they can send a unit up here for drinks and snacks? Sir, American Red Cross with the, I believe, rehab unit for drinks and snacks, 1622. I spoke with the Red Cross. Their ETA is 60 minutes. Hurry, sir. 60. Affirmative.
So, because it takes a long time, the team decided to activate a CERT if CERT is available. So that's this part, the activation part.
Fire alarm from command. Fire alarm command. Any luck from the Red Cross? Sir, no luck from the Red Cross. We are on the phone with the Salvation Army right now. They just called us back for that. Okay, let me know. I am activating the CERT team to see if they can help us.
So I'm proud to say that this CERT team, most of the members here were there within 20 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
What is firefighter rehab?
So firefighter rehab will provide snacks, food, water. There's a rehabilitation tent we'll set up for them. Make sure that they rest when they're supposed to, whenever chief decides, and for how long. We're kind of their moms that day. You know, if chief says these firefighters just came out and they need to rest for 15 minutes, we put the clock on them. Check in with them, see how they're feeling. If we feel or they feel they need, you know, an EMT to come over and check them out, we'll call for that and make sure everything is checked out for them. We'll get into it a little bit further here as we look at these pictures of what we do. but we've learned to change their air tanks and fill them. I think that's Ellen there at the command center, their board, learning to keep track of who goes into a building, who comes out, where they are, which frees up their manpower to do what they need to do best, okay? So some of the things we have pictures of here is that they had a reconstruction of a bus in a car accident with victims in the bus. So we were the victims, and they transported us out of the bus. They had an exercise at Indian Road, smoky building. They lay out their hoses. We learn how to support them. And they practice, we practice, setting up a warming shelter, and our training at the FEMA bunker about a year ago now, maybe a year and a half. Chief talked a lot about it. Resilience is about protecting our families today, and it means being self-sufficient when systems fail. When we are prepared, we reduce the strain on our emergency services. So that's all what about being a sustainable community, is a prepared community. So when we took this training, the first thing they said to us was, you need to be prepared yourself, okay? You can't come out and help us if you've got chaos at home. So, and we don't expect you to, and we don't. So we take care of what we can at our homes first, and then we're able to help the community in general and help those that need us the most. So some of the things, and we've brought some things to show you today, that you can do to prepare at low to no cost. It doesn't need to cost a lot of money. You don't need to go out and buy a ton of stuff. Is we've got the buy nothing page in town, right? Look for deals, garage sales, things you might find like camping gear items, things like that. Make sure you have a family evacuation plan. Know where people are, where you're going to meet, what you're going to do, phone numbers, things like that. We have some handouts over there and some QR codes for you to scan today. Oops, could you go back? About preparedness, be ready, .gov, be informed. Creating a free emergency communication plan is also available on that QR code on that site. Consider adding older clothing that you might not wear, that you're not going to put on the buy nothing just yet, that if you need to go to, you know, a shelter for the night, just because things aren't so good at home, that you have a change of clothes, right? A toothbrush, maybe toothpaste. I got to brush my teeth. I don't know about you all, but I'm taking that with me. And to sign up for local emergency alerts, which we'll talk about the 911 system here in town, the RAVE system. Okay. Okay, so we talked about resilience starting at home, having that communication plan. What are you going to do if you can't text message? I grew up not text messaging. I grew up with a corded phone. What are you going to do? We just assume we'll text that person, right? Don't worry. I can iMessage them. I can WhatsApp them. What are you going to do if you can't? What are you going to do if communication systems are down? A power down drill, probably really important. Know where your gas, water, and electric shutoffs are located. Know how to turn them off. And keep your portable battery banks charged, or if you have a generator, make sure you can start it. Have hard copies, sorry Chief, hard copies of important contacts. So what are you gonna do? You got your clothes. What are you gonna do with this stuff? So we have a stay bin and a go bag. The stay bin, especially for those of you who don't have town water, you're not going to be able to flush. It's not going to be pleasant. A gallon of water per person per day. Non-perishable foods. Can opener. Can't eat if you can't get the can open. Extra flashlights and batteries, just in case your generator fails. Blanket and warm clothes. Chargers for your phones. They have those little basic ones. We have some examples. And a first aid kit. What if you cut yourself opening the tuna? You might want to put a Band-Aid on that because you might not be able to get to the emergency room right away. If you need to go, your medication, probably one of the most important things. Important papers, maybe you'll have it on a USB that's in a waterproof container, a waterproof folder, a little bit of cash. We have an example, pet crate over there. We're always talking in CERT about what to do with people's animals because people do not want to leave home without their dogs, without their cats, and they'd rather stay at home where it might not be safe to stay with those animals. So it's always a discussion, and we're still ongoing, but please don't stay in an unsafe situation. We'll manage with the animals somehow. Personal first aid kit, your personal hygiene items, a map of the area, if you even know what maps are. We're all about the nav, infant formula, diapers, things like that. And I won't go through this whole list, but we have all kinds of stuff over there for you to look at. So how do we find in town what's going on? Oh, somebody's missing, or oh, there's a big storm and the power's out, or don't go out. This RAVE Mobile Safety Smart 911 system, super easy to sign up, super easy to customize where you want your alerts to come, email, text messages. Please, if you're not on it already, you don't get the alerts already, and there aren't many of them, honestly. You won't be bothered. Please scan that. We have a slide over there that you can scan and fill that form out, super easy, and you'll be on the system. They're on the tables too, I believe. Yep, and there's another one over there with our handouts.
So each of the table have one, and that can be circulated.
Yep.
We will see the other sites too, and then there's copies over there.
Yep, there's copies. And Chief knows this has been my pet peeve about disability and elderly. How do we take care of them? People with sensory issues in an emergency. We all tend to just go, oh my God. And what about people who need extra help? Couple things, because I really dug in on this yesterday. The first thing we came across was this disability indicator form. This is something that you can fill out that we will, or you can, if you fill it out today, we will bring it for you, drop off at the police station. And your information gets entered into a database so that they know you need extra help, okay? I also found, and there's a lot of information on the FEMA site about a preparedness list for people with disabilities, sensory issues, elderly. I printed out a bunch of copies, they're over there. It's a list of things to take into consideration. Because I know I've held elderly people in my family. I don't want to go. I got a walker. I've got the cat. I've got this. We really need to support those people. Those are our most vulnerable people in an emergency, I feel personally. Okay, next. This is the guide. You will see everything you need to know. You can scan this QR code. It's over there again. It's such a huge document we couldn't print out a couple 50, 60 pages to make packets to take, but you'll also find disability, elderly care, and things like that within this QR code if you don't want to take paper. So here we are at some of our different events, health and safety fairs, and with our brand new CERT jackets. And at this point, I'll turn it over for any questions.
Is the plan for a break or questions now?
Oh, break. Fabulous.
Okay, we're going to come back together now for questions and answers. Yeah, hold on one second. And cert people too. Okay.
Okay, great. I think we're gonna pass the. Oh, good. You're on mic so that we can hear.
Could all of the CERT team members come up front too? Because you might want to chime in on an answer as well. Thank you.
Great. Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Okay. Is this working?
It is.
Okay. Question, where did you get your CERT training? I am not from Tyngsborough, so I had never heard of CERT before, so this is very informational for me. But I live in the town of Chelmsford, and we have first aid training, which when I look up CERT on my phone, that's what I get referred to as the first aid training from our health department. So where were you trained, and
So, social media, about 3 years ago, there was a post about, and I forget if it came from you or who it came from. I don't even know if this is on. Yeah, anyway, asking for people who were interested, and there were 2 informational sessions, and those that went were recruited. You know, you joined if you wanted to. I don't know if Chelmsford has a CERT team.
Not currently. I can actually. So CERT came about again after 9/11 when there was a lot of changes. It's actually not that new a thing. Came about with Citizen Corps, and part of it, Medical Reserve Corps was a big new program, and CERT, and those were Citizen Corps grant opportunities. We unfortunately weren't able to take advantage of it until more recently, and so we started, about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and we got a $5,000 grant from the federal government to start operating a CERT team. UMass Lowell, the city of Lowell, and the town of Dracut had CERT teams at the time, so we really looked at being able to collaborate with them. The unfortunate reality is in Lowell and Dracut CERT teams kind of went defunct, but UMass Lowell still has one. And there are other communities, Littleton, Groton have CERT teams, and they're starting to collaborate amongst each other more officially. So on the the unfortunate side is we're able to get that CERT grant 2 years in a row, and now that grant isn't available anymore. And I don't know if that's a temporary hold and it's going to come back, hopefully. We keep asking, or we need to rethink how we're going to get supplies and equipment and fund some of the training, but we'll find a way because it's been a valuable resource to the community.
I first learned about CERT when I was getting ready to apply for grad school and trying to position myself as somebody who was interested in climate resilience, to think about all facets of what that is, food, emergency management. Unfortunately, yes, FEMA is changing its structure and how it's investing in things. But I will say there could be opportunities with the state of Massachusetts Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. Each one of the communities in the state of Massachusetts to get funding for adaptation and resilience projects needs to participate in an MVP process and an action grant. So you do the process and then you can apply for an action grant. And that's one of the great things about being at a regional planning agency like myself is that we can go for funding to build up a regional CERT program.
Well, we didn't bring our slides, so to hit the QR code so that you could send a message, but any of us here, if you are his email's right there. If any of you are interested in joining us, please, we more the merrier, please join us.
More questions? Yeah, great.
First off, thank you all for being here. I've learned a lot today, so it's a really interesting event. And now I know that I have a CERT member right in my neighborhood. So, Amy, I'm relying on you. But no, I do have two questions. So those fires that you brought up, the one on Danforth and then the one on Primrose right after, it made me realize how isolated certain areas of this town are. How spread out are your 20 volunteers? Are there any gaps in certain areas of town that could use more volunteers?
You know, part of the process preparing for this discussion, just brainstorming, you know, we came up with the idea of working to identify where our CERT members are and maybe even assigning, you know, some responsibility to their local neighborhood to try and coordinate a little better with their own neighborhood during an emergency. So that's something that we've started working on. I know Ajit had a map program that he was putting all of the CERT members on, and that's something we'll have moving forward. Hopefully they're spread out quite a bit, but we're not quite sure yet.
I thank you all as well for your service to our community. I have a question. Chief, I believe you showed a form of those our vulnerable population, those with disabilities, people who may need extra help evacuating. What is the plan to get that information from our public? Do you need, I mean, how do you go about that?
So actually Diane brought it up, but do you want to?
That's fine. So we have that disability form. I think it's up. There's a QR code. You can sign up. It actually goes to dispatch, I think, at TPD down the street here, and they're entered into a database so that they know.
But I think, you know, again, preparing for this event.
Right.
You know, Diane's hit on an opportunity for the CERT team to do something else and to start reaching out to the community and getting people involved with identifying their needs for these vulnerable populations. So I think, you know, that's something that we're talking about being, you know, something we do moving forward.
Yeah, so everybody here should tell all their friends in town that, hey, there's a Smart 911 system if you need extra help. If you need extra help, you know, we should all just tell everybody we know that, hey, I found this out. Is it something you need or are interested in?
So for us to spread that information, there may be people without internet that don't have access to that form. Is there a way to get to people that might not have, like I said, internet access or might need additional help, for people that we don't know about that may need that additional help?
I despise internet access for the elderly. They find it so difficult to do that. So somehow as a team, maybe we need to hard copy that form and have it somewhere. Or here, along with the checklist, so that we can, you know, it's not just elderly, it's people with disabilities, it's people with sensory issues, it's kids with sensory issues. It's a lot, and it's a lot in the community, and we need to take good care of them.
And I think, you know, we've identified another opportunity for the CERT team to have an impact on the community, and that's what we're going to do moving forward. One of the, you know, vulnerable populations we always look at is the seniors and that may be shut in and not have a good support network, but you know, still live in their home they've lived in for 50 years, and we always work with the Council on Aging and Barbara, the Meals on Wheels program. We figure that identifies a lot of those people. Whenever we have a storm like that, we update the list and make sure that if there is a power outage, we're reaching out to those people to make sure we're checking on them. We're not waiting for them to call us. So that's one way that we do that. But again, we're finding as we're getting into this, we're finding opportunities for our own growth.
And also, this hopefully we're inspiring you to go and knock on your neighbor's door and say hello. Right, and I think also the Tyngsborough Block Party is a great opportunity to get to know your neighbors in your community.
Okay, I wanted to add to that. If people we're talking about getting to know your neighbors and making sure you know who needs help and stuff. So one of the ideas that Chief Russell and I were talking about was encouraging people to host like a block party for their neighborhood, and people come together and get to know each other that way. Would CERT be willing to come to such an event and talk about preparedness, but also, you know, where to get these resources?
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and the other idea I had was when you talked about disability, reaching out to the vulnerable population, another way to go is through the schools, because the school nurses would know who needs support as well.
Okay, just another real quick question. You had listed some things, and you talk about finding things online and contacting people online. What about cybersecurity attacks? Because then you wouldn't necessarily have online capabilities. And I wasn't sure if that would go under tech and accident or terrorism.
Yeah, probably both.
Yeah, it's kind of a toss-up, because there could be many reasons why you might lose. There could be a cyber attack. There are people out there doing ransomware attacks and all this stuff. So I was just curious, how would you use some of your resources? I don't know how I would get in touch with my family members if I couldn't text or call them. And this is sort of along that line. So what do you do?
Yeah, a huge challenge, and you know, kind of off of the natural hazard thing when we talk about climate resiliency. But the threat analysis that goes along with that is, you know, mostly done by IT. You know, law enforcement and IT would be responding to that kind of event, and emergency management and CERT would do what we do. From an emergency management perspective, if the town were under attack, there would be a planning meeting. We'd come together and say, okay, what plans do we have that we can put into place already? What is the injury, and you know, what resources do we need? And we just, you know, monitor the event, get resources from our neighbors or from the state, or if we need to. You know, I know that IT for the town works on protecting the town from this kind of a thing daily, and protecting our servers. So, but yeah, just like every other event, what happens is we come together and we say, what do we need to do to respond to this, and what role does the fire department play? What role does the police department play? What role does CERT play, or what can they do? And we'd respond. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's kind of how we approach all of it.
I would like to add one thing to it. My primary field is IT. So, even in IT world, especially in this kind of a scenario, there is a CERT for that. It's called Computer Emergency Response Team, and they have protocols. And similar to FEMA, there are federal agencies that have defined guidelines that. Things that we have to monitor on a day-to-day basis, as well as when something happens, there is a protocol to follow, some sort of a SOPs or standard operating procedures. That's all.
If there's no more questions before I turn over to you, I just want to, you know, thank everybody for their interest here. If anybody is interested in getting involved with CERT, even if it just you want to come to our next meeting and just see what it's all about, we're not going to pressure you. Feel free to reach out to Andrew Taylor and find out when that is. And I just want to, you know, at one point Diane said that the CERT team helps out the firefighters do certain things while they can do something that's more important. Well, whatever we're doing is not more important. It's because it's all important. That's why we need the CERT team. You know, maybe they're doing something that requires a specific skill or protective equipment that they have and the CERT doesn't. But all of the stuff they do is important. And the line in the slide that gets me the most in that movie about CERT, and it's what these guys do. They sign up and they show up. And that's all we're asking.
Well, With that, I want to say thank you so much to the CERT team, Chief Russell and Diana and the rest of the Sustainability Committee. Let's give them a round of applause. And I want to say thank you so much to all of you for coming and asking the questions and taking a look at these things. Sometimes in my role, I need to be reminded that people also care about this work. So thank you so much for everyone for coming. Next month on March 21st, we'll be hosting Resilient Yards, talking about how your personal yard space can be a part of a climate solution. So maybe this is like a little teaser. Is this a teaser? Okay. But we look forward to seeing you then, and thank you again so much.